Alright, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about how Gambesons will affect the current meta we have in Age of Empires 2. So the thing is, Gambesons is a new technology that gives an extra pierce armor to the longsword line. That being said, even though it's available in Castle Age, I don't see it being a Castle Age specific technology. I see it having a much higher impact in late Imperial Age, preferably when there's not a lot of gold left for the players to spend. And I'll tell you why, but first let me explain why Castle Age Gambeson rushes with longswords is just simply not as effective as you might think it would be. Basically, naturally speaking, or like just generally speaking, the longsword is just not a good option to open up and to go with as your main strategy. There are a lot of reasons for that. It's slow, it dies to cavalry, it's hard to get into, because even though they made the tax research a little bit faster, it still takes a while and a lot of resources to get to longswords and to get a healthy mass of them. And you still have to pay for Gambesons. It's a 200 resource costing tech, 100 food, 100 gold, and so naturally, it's going to be a pretty tough task to get to a mass of longsword Gambeson ready to go army, and I just don't see that being relevant to the meta. It dies to knights, it dies to crossbows. If you just kite back a little bit, you need a lot to really take out buildings and town centers, and they could even die to some scorpions and mangonels as well. So I really don't see that being an effective strategy, although I will say we could see a niche appearance here and there of long swords with Gambesons, maybe to counter eagles, maybe to catch your opponent off guard. It will have some play, but it's not going to be meta play at all. Where does the meta play come in? I believe Gambesons will completely change how late game is played, especially when it comes to infantry versus cavalier or civs, cav-based civs. The reason being, Gambesons gives them an extra pierce armor. The champions go from 5 pierce armor total to 6 pierce armor. So the skirm goes from dealing 2 damage to 1 damage. Oh, it's just 1 damage, it's no big deal. It actually is a big deal. You go from needing 35 shots from a skirm to kill a champion to needing 70 shots. So this actually doubles the effectiveness that champions have against skirmishers. So this is what we're going to see, and I'm going to showcase the example right now. We're going to see a situation where there's not a lot of gold in the play, and so you have mainly halberdier, but we're going to mix in like some champions to give our army a little bit more power and to protect us against skirms. If I patrol an army of 60 infantry towards my opponent backed up with siege, my opponent doesn't have the time to use his skirmishers, which I've got 40 skirm, 20 cav. I can't just pick off the halbs. I might try like 1 or 2, but then I'm focusing all my attention on just a couple halbs with all my skirms. Eventually, I'm going to be forced to take a fight, and this is how the fight's going to play out. I can't constantly just micro. I can try my best here and make sure that the skirms are hitting some of the halberdiers, because as I stated earlier, if you hit a champion, you're only dealing 1 damage. So if I just patrol my skirms, that's going to be completely useless. And as you can see, the halbs shred through the calf so fast, and the champions create this front line where the skirms just can't do anything and can't target the halberdier, which is their whole job in this composition. And so this composition from the infantry player is literally twice as effective after Gambesons. Before Gambesons, the skirms did just fine against champions. I wasn't even phased. I'd micro all day against the champions, but now it's a lot harder to micro against this champion. And so infantry pushing buildings, infantry defending trebuchets, infantry forcing the calf player to fight them is going to be a big problem. And so the calf player, to counter this, will probably have to invest into like heavy scorpion, which the price was reduced a little bit, so it might be more of an option, or he's forced to invest into like hand cannoneer or something to deal with with the halberdier champion composition. And by the way, this is with cavalier. Imagine if it had only hussars. It gets even worse than that. And you might be thinking, well, champions is a gold unit, but it's only 20 gold apiece, and you don't need many of them to block a lot of the skirm damage as well. So you just need a few champions in the front line to prevent him from just patrolling and hitting halbs with his skirms, and that's really effective. So that's how I think Gambesons will affect the meta. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know if you have any questions or you want to see some topics about the new patch. I'm more than happy to pump out these videos. Peace.